So they get it. Powerful stuff. Okay. So government of the people, by the people, for the people, in a democracy. That's in Boston, Renaissance School, fully participating in a democratic society. All right, so then we have the high school art room, and this is RJ, one of my former graduate students, and I asked him about this, if I could say this, because I said to him, RJ, you were not the guy I would have thought was going to take up critical race theory when you left my program, because we are constantly butting heads and having very democratic conversations. And I get when he goes out into the world to teach, and he goes back to his hometown in Wyoming, I start getting emails, 3 times a week, like, the book length kind. And he says, Patty, I came to my former high school, hope you could change the same old small town life. One of the things I noticed right away was the stereotyping and generalizations about minorities. Race was clearly an issue, but few students or adults realized it. I wanted a project that would address the race issue in conjunction with art and provide a way for us to discuss it within the community. So I saw meeting David Wilson. So he brings this film in his class, which was on NBC, on like a featured thing one night. In this film, these two guys, this guy's, whoops, okay, so this guy over here, they're both called David Wilson, both of their names. And David Wilson, the journalist, African-American journalist on this left, is doing genealogical research and learns that this other guy named David Wilson is living on the land where his ancestors were enslaved by the other David Wilson's ancestors. So it's a very powerful thing. There's nothing about art education in this movie, right? Nothing about art education. In this movie, there's nothing about elements and principles of design. And RJ brings it into his school and develops a whole dialogue with his students and in their journaling. And they develop responses to it. They do a lot of writing. They do some performance art. They bring their work into the community. They discuss some inequities they think are going on. And there's some of his, I'm not going to stay on this, his lesson plans. So that's in Wyoming with RJ, with high schools, of the people, by the people, for the people, thinking about what art education is for in full participation in democratic society. We're kind of doing the drive-through version of all of these. So I'm going to zip through this. Here's one of the books I mentioned. I think we're going to put this video on the PAEA website eventually. I'll have to take out some of the kids' videos that you'll see in a few minutes, but we're going to try to put this up as as a video that'll be easy to access because it's very data heavy. Here's another book that I recommend, whether you're a high school teacher or in higher ed. And this is Singleton and Linton's little summary. Now, I just gave you 3 examples of talking about race in the classroom. It's certainly only one of multiple ways we can engage in patriotic dialogue, but it's I think the dialogue we avoid the most still in our classrooms and in society. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there, and that's why I highlighted those. But Sonia is my mentor and advisor from my doctoral program. Sonia Nieto, I'm co-author of her book, and something we say in the very first paragraph is multicultural education needs to not just consider schooling, but the social, economic, political context of the world in which we live. So, on that note, it's my quick little plug for the Caucus of Social Theory and Art Education, of which we have several senior scholars here in our audience. I'm standing on tall shoulders. But, what is this in art education? What's this idea of considering multicultural education, considering patriotism, considering social theory? Well, there are lots of ways, lots and lots of theories out there that engage in similar questions. And here's just a few of them. Why does this matter? This matters because this is not Patty Bode's crazy idea, right? When we become fluent in the theory and fluent in the research, we have a strong undergirding for the pushback that we may get, and we may get pushback. And so we need to undergird ourselves with theory and practice that we know works, and we need to always be putting our students' voices first. So I'm going to move on from that. So I first started thinking about this, who gets to be counted as a patriot, back in 2007. You probably remember this, when somebody named Senator being criticized for not wearing a flag lapel pin. I was like, are we really gonna be doing this and spending months on the airways about this? But it became so prevalent that I realized I really needed to take this seriously as a component of my visual culture and listen to what the arguments were. So what Barack Obama was saying at the time was shortly after 9/11, particularly as we're talking about the Iraq War, that, my parentheses, that wearing a flag lapel pin became a substitute for, I think, true patriotism, which is speaking out on issues that are important to our national security. So, he took a stance, and now he wears it when, he thinks he should, and doesn't wear it when, So, but this question about the flag and its meaning, a flag came up when we talk about symbolism. This is really big, right? So let's talk about the flag for a minute, and let's do a quick engaged inquiry on this, and I know I'm way behind. So tell me anything you notice or anything you wonder about this image. Anything you see, anything you notice, or wonder. Just yell it out, because we don't have a lot of time. Barbed wire. What does barbed wire mean to you? Keeping things captive. Barbed wire. What else do you see or notice or wonder?
The flag is negative.
The flag is what?
Negative.
What is it? What do we mean by that?
The dark is light, the light is dark.
Okay, and where it's blue, it's orange, and what do we call that? Opposite colors, right? Okay, so there's a United States flag in the background. Does everybody see it? And it's painted with complementary or opposite colors. Okay, so it might be a question we have. Why it looks like that? Somebody back here, what do you see? What do you notice? What do you wonder?
Puerto Rican flag.
Puerto Rican flag, here, all right? Flag of Puerto Rico, here, okay? What else? There's a big heart. What about the heart?
It has nails in it.
It has nails in it. Okay, if there was just a heart with no nails in it, what would we say it meant?
Love.
Love, right? This is a universal understanding, right? Love. If a heart with nails in it means what?
Pain.
Pain and suffering. Okay. What else?
Death of the Hispanic flag.
Okay, so thank you for the translation of Spanish. So where did they disparo por policía, right? Death of a Hispanic by police is the headlines of the newspaper here. What else? Do you notice? Yes.
It's like the little opinion on the lower right-hand side is crossed out.
Okay, something's crossed out there, and we're not sure why or who it is. It's the face of a person. What else do you notice? Statue of Liberty, James. Okay, James says this is the Statue of Liberty. Does everybody agree? Raise your hand if you agree. Yeah? Yeah. It's the Statue of Liberty, right? But we know that the Statue of Liberty has a whole dress and a torch and a book and all those prongs and everything. That little tiny snippet of not even her whole face and not even her both eyes tells us, reads to us, Statue of Liberty. And what does that mean? What does Statue of Liberty mean? Freedom. What else does it mean? Opportunity. Immigration. Give us your poor, right? This is the power of visual culture icons in our lives. That little means all those things. Okay, so, and what else do you notice?
Torn book pages.
Torn book pages. What else do you notice?
Words.
Okay. This is what sociologists are telling us, that we are reading images something like 80,000 times faster than we are reading printed text. He wrote, I am a 28-year-old Puerto Rican born in Puerto Rico, raised in the devastated ghettos of Brooklyn at a very early age. I saw the systematic burning of tenement buildings in our communities, where the selling and purchasing of drugs by desperate individuals are rampant, where crimes are commonplace, where poor working people are left with unemployment and devastated school systems for our children. The U.S. government has never provided any progressive and concrete solutions to these problems, and it remains incapable of providing the necessary changes to bring equality and social justice. We could go on, but you did a pretty good, quick read of its meaning before we read the words, right? We could go on with that. So,
Could you read
United States flag,
could
yes.
you read the last sentence?
Yes, we will go on.
The very last one.
Okay, so he says, as a child, I was bused to segregated schools, and as a result, I had to learn to defend myself in order to escape from racist youth gangs and adults that were opposed to our presence in the communities. I can't read the rest here, I don't know those. Does that help? All right, so the U.S. flag, Statue of Liberty, that's Juan Sanchez, he did it in 1989, he calls these reconstructions, obviously playing on his heritage. So I'm going to go till 2, I know some of you might have to go, I've got 151 on here. United States flag, Statue of Liberty. United States flag, Statue of Liberty. Do they mean the same thing? How do we know that?
Context.
Context? No words on this one. What does the one on the left mean?
Symbols of freedom.
Okay, so you could ask third graders this and they would tell you that. Because I have asked them. They tell you the same thing. No, they don't mean the same thing. I've asked 7th graders, what does this mean? What does the U.S. flag symbolize? I asked 735 7th graders. Every single one of them said this first. Most of them said this second. These are things that they said it means. And then I asked one more question. I said, are there groups or individuals for whom it may not have that meaning? They all said yes. 735 7th graders said yes. I said, what are some of the things that it could mean to others? Who might those groups be? They named all kinds of groups. They named people in their own neighborhood. They named people in Iraq and Afghanistan. They named Native groups, Native American groups. They named immigrant groups. They named their own families. Just ask the question. Just ask the question. Because this is how knowledge and patriotism is created, right? This is critical thought. Not saying that this is what it means. That's it. It can mean this. It can also mean this. This is how we participate in a full democratic society. Okay, so we could go on. I'm going to skip through this. Well, I'll talk about this. Are there flags that go unrecognized? Does a flag always represent a nation or state? Not always. Abenaki are the native indigenous people to Massachusetts. And then, we can look at how flags have been used in visual art. There's a lot of examples of the U.S. flag in visual art. We can see how it's used in the grocery store. What happens when you add text? What happens when you change the shape? What happens when you add this text? What about flag waving? What does it mean to wave a flag? Let's do it really quick on this one. What do you see going on here? Anybody, what do you see? What's going on in this picture?
Asking for help.
They're asking for help, they're asking to be rescued. Where do you think they are? When do you think they are? New Orleans during Katrina. Okay, that was quick. We can talk a lot more about that. What's going on over here on the left?
Political rallies.
Political rally, yeah, it's the inauguration of Barack Obama. It's somebody taking a picture of somebody taking a picture of observing an event on the Jumbotron. So flag waving can have lots of different meanings. This piece was extremely compelling to these 7th grade artists. And we talked about mass media presenting us with images that shape our worldview and the world's view of us. And we discussed all these images. And this was our homework. What do you see? What do you not see? Like, what are you not thinking about? What are you not questioning? Something we're going to talk about today. What does it mean? What can you do? And we co-constructed classroom discourse. They love sounding smart. We were negotiating community texts and co-constructing classroom discourse. They brought in all these images. Here's what it looks like in process. I don't have time to talk about all of it, but I want you to hear from the kids. We're just going to do a quick video of the kids. Notice how often this was reappropriated, this image. Busy place. It's noisy. Kids move around a lot. And then when they were done, they answered those same questions about their own artwork. They answered, what do you see, what do you not see, what does it mean, what do you do? These are just a few snippets from their writing. Can you see it from the back? Celia said, I see fear and I don't see hope. What it means is we can give hope. Marissa, this actually won a Scholastic Award, which I was really surprised about. The waters are rising. See how she's ventriloquating that same text? This is the, is it the Superdome or Astrodome? Yeah, this is it. Superdome with all the cots lined up. All right. What would you do if it was you? This was a question the kids asked over and over in their pieces. What would you do if it was you? What would you do if your grandmother was in that hospital? What would you do if you had to leave your dog on that porch? What would you do? I did not set out with a lesson to say I was going to develop empathy in 7th graders. It just emerged, right? Over and over again. And the kids said things like, I'm really glad we're doing this, because in other classes we're just like turning to page 42 and bringing in a can of soup. Doesn't mean bringing in a can of soup is a bad thing, right? But that's humanitarian aid without social political context. Right? This is humanitarian aid and social action. We did a whole bunch of stuff for the whole year on this, with partnering with a sister city and a sister city and everything. So I just want you to hear from the kids. You can see, again, how they appropriated these images. And here's the kids. And this was their idea. They said, Ms. Bode, you know, if we're talking about mass media, we should really be making mass media and not games. I was like, oh yeah, all right. So 2 rules. Nobody's allowed to trip over the cord, so they built this little wall. And everybody has to have a turn talking to the camera and shooting the camera. Those are the 2 rules. And Ms. Bode's not touching the camera. It's like, oh, this is on you. You can do that with 12-year-olds. So Marco, here, we'll hear from just a couple of them because we have to wrap up soon. Bridget,